One of the things that ArtWOD says into this, and I agree with it, is that a lot of it does eventually start to turn into mental health concerns and starting to address and counsel people. My contrary view to this, that I'm going to take a very strong stance on, is that I don't think that you should be a teacher if you're not willing to start to bridge that a little bit. Not that you have to be the end all be all, but you should have to be understanding that that is going to come up. I think that, and I'll just relate this back to a lot of the people that I talk to, but a lot of people I talk to are like, oh, well, you know, Sean, I think my art's good enough. I should be doing better. But if that really were the case, you realistically would be doing better. There's something underlying there. Let's go for it. And so my strong stance is that I don't think that you should really get into that educational aspect of teaching art if you're not willing to also support the mental growth of the artist, because you cannot separate the art from the artist. That's what I'm always telling people. You can't separate the art from the artist. We're one. It's a humanistic endeavor. It's a humanistic triumph. You have to examine the human. And so that's really where I try and help people. I'd say that's one of like my definitive things, and one of the reasons why I wanted to mentor with the people that I chose too, is because I feel that we're aligned on that practice and purpose. So I feel that that's really important with it as well. And then too, one of the things that I think families pick up on this, and I think sometimes educationally this is reinforced as well. And this is a big component of my dissertation, reading, writing, and research, is that it has to do with the talent paradigm. Like, have you ever encountered families or just your students that said, well, I don't think I'm talented enough to be an artist. I like it, but I'm just not talented. What are your thoughts on
that? What are you doing here in the first place? Why are you here? You know, but I love to draw. Okay, so so tell me what you mean by talent. Well, you know, I want to be able to do something like that. Do you have the desire to? Yeah. Do you have the drive to? Yeah. Do you love the idea of doing that one day? Yeah. Well, then I'll give you the tools to do it. To me, talent is only plays a very small portion. In fact, talent can be more of a detriment than a quality, because people go, oh, I grew up everybody, oh, Adam's the artist, he's so talented. It becomes easy, and you want to be able to, you want to fight for something. You need friction to feel like you're making progress. This is why Dark Souls is such a great game, right? It doesn't hand you a victory. You got to bloody earn it for yourself. You're going to have to die 55 times and get frustrated about it. But that frustration deep down inside is very motivating, isn't it? As long as you play the line well. Now, if you draw and you feel like you want to jump in front of a bus every single time you draw something because you're so blah, 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 well, maybe you need to look into that psychologically, right? But if you get frustrated because because your ambitions are bigger than your talent, then good. Lean into that frustration. Get mad at your drawings. That's good. It's good. It fuels you, as long as it doesn't pull you down too much, right? As long as it doesn't. If you start feeling like you're pulling away from your art because it's just a source of too much unhappiness, well, then you have to ask yourself the question, what is it that's making me feel that way? I'm actually planning a video really, really soon where I talk about numbers. I'm going to talk about how numbers can be a very negative thing for growth. Okay.
Interesting. Numbers in terms of what? I'm curious about
numbers in terms of keeping track or having a visual gauge of progress in a numbers form can be very, very discouraging. Something that I discovered when it came to playing chess and monitoring your ELO, your chess ranking, or or social media where videos aren't doing as well as they should do. I was actually inspired by a video. There was a video I watched that really kind of triggered this for me. So there's a healthy and an unhealthy side of frustration. The unhealthy is I feel depressed all the time because of blah, blah, blah. I feel that if there's a depression, if there's a weight that is impacting the quality of your life, and it's trickling its way outside of just drawing, then that's something else. But I love the fact that you brought up the whole mental health side of things, and Antonio's video, which I absolutely love. That's why I did the video, because I loved his video. I love the subject he was talking on, because it brought a lot of value, and it made everybody think and react, and I love that about it. That's why I did. Yeah, there is a mental health side of it, but not not from a clinical perspective.
No.
And what, again, as a teacher, as an adult, as a parent, as any of these things where where you're a public figure, being a responsible public figure means you think before you talk. You have to have a sense of accountability for what you share with people publicly or privately. So if I'm going to start offering some guru advice to somebody that could potentially impact their life in a profound and negative way, like for instance, when we're talking about families and family dynamics, I'm not going to turn to a student who's having a hard time with the family and say, wow, your parents are real jerks. Wow, they're really toxic. You got to get out of that. No, you don't do that, because what I'm doing is I'm taking a small snippet of information, a soundbite, and I'm telling them to abandon their support system. That's irresponsible. If somebody comes to me and says, I'm dealing with all of these different struggles with my religious group, with my religious community, and it's really making me feel this way about blah blah blah, and it's really making me question my identity, I'm in no way qualified to be able to help them with that kind of stuff at all.
Right.
So I have to have the emotional maturity to be able to say, okay, well, it sounds like you need help for that. Am I going to say, oh God, another closet case asking me to be an unpaid psychologist? No, of course not. I'm there to share in that space with them, and there to share that experience and to be able to pick out what's the artistic challenge and what are the other ones. Artistic challenges here. Let me offer you some real practical tools you can get to overcome that. Are you struggling for motivation here? Well, why are you struggling for motivation? Is it because you just don't understand that fundamental well enough, and it's a bit of a friction point for you, like that boss in Dark Souls you can't get over? Okay, well, try this approach. Maybe you're missing that. See? So I'm offering practical, actionable advice on how to navigate this. Or somebody saying, oh, I got such imposter syndrome. Well, you know why I get imposter syndrome? Because I go on sites like ArtStation and there's too much talent. I tend to spend more of my time on Pinterest because it's curated. It's curated to my imagination, and I feel safer creatively in that space because I'm not getting bombarded by too much variety. That's crippling.
Right.
These are all things that you and I are very qualified to help people with, to point it out and to see when was it in my artistic path where I felt totally demotivated, when I would try to pursue a certain artistic practice that would totally ruin me. And I completely lost my sense of inspiration, and other ones that felt like healthy challenges that pulled me and helped me improve. How could I distinguish the difference between those two? But if somebody comes back the next week and says, I got in this really bad fight with my partner and it got really, really heavy, and the police came over and blah 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 and all that kind of stuff, I'm saying, okay, well, you need to talk to the authorities about that stuff. I'm not going to tell them to get lost. I'm not. Why would I do that? No, it's just making it. You're maybe you just want to share with me. That's fine. But what are you expecting to come out of it at the other end? Even though I want to help, I'm not qualified to. You're talking about something legal. You're talking about something psychological. You're talking about something chemical. I'm not qualified to help that. But am I going to hate them for doing it? Absolutely not. So making that distinction and highlighting, like you said, highlighting to teachers that if you don't want to have personal conversations with anybody or talk about anything personal, you're probably in the wrong field, buddy. Because every school I've ever been in, be it public or private, that's a part of the game. And you have to just be able to you have to have the maturity and the flexibility to be able to navigate that, right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. And the thing too, just to understand for everybody that's at every artistic level, it never gets easier. Like, I think that there's this myth around like, oh, well, if only I was born under a different star, or if I was gifted this ability, and there's no such thing. But if only this and if only that, it doesn't get easier. One of the things that Ted Orland says in his book, The View from the Studio Door, is that like, if only time went by, this would get easier from being an artist. But it doesn't. It never gets any easier. It's the same thing where there used to be this pedagogy surrounding art that if you left the pupil alone, they would naturally just kind of develop perfectly. But that doesn't happen. That you need to have some type of guidance. You need to have some type of an influence in there too. And one of the worst things that I've always found too is how they think that they're not blessed enough. They think that they're not good enough. They're not talented enough. And so what would you say to somebody who is being actively told, well, you're good, but you're not talented enough. You're not good enough to make it. What would you say to them?
It depends on the angle you're coming from, right? There's
Yeah.
to a certain degree, yeah. Sometimes it's just objective fact. You're not professionally skilled. You don't have
Mm-hmm.
your foundations down pat well enough to be able to work professionally. And
Mm-hmm.
realistically, if you would apply to jobs, they're not going to hire you. You just don't have the technical skill yet, which is reality, right?
Mm-hmm.
And although most artists, I'd say 95% of the artists that I work with generally have a very good sense of where they are. Sometimes they need a little
Yeah.
bit of feedback from a professional to say, okay, this is what you might want to polish up to be able to really give you a good opportunity, a good chance to get the job. Some people don't.
Right.
Some people, they will have. I have had the very rare student who put 0% effort. They haven't done anything to train their skills at all. And they asked me the
Mm-hmm.
question, do you think I'm ready to start applying for jobs? And I'm like, no,
Mm-hmm.
you haven't even started to get ready for jobs. You can barely
Yeah.
draw yet. But that's
Yeah.
real. That's really, really very rare that I ever come across a
Right.
student like that. Like, you have to learn how to draw proper. You have to just be able to draw. Period. You just don't
Right.
have any fundamentals yet. So you kind
Yeah.
of walked in 2 weeks later and asked if can I get a job? And like, I want to quit my day job so I can pursue a career in art. Don't. Keep your day job. Keep your day job until your art can overlap it and take
Yeah.
over salary wise. There should be a natural transition from one to the other. Um, but
That's awesome.
but some people, I would argue, one of the things that I notice very often in the industry is that people don't realize how specific certain types of skills are. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that a versatile artistic understanding is something that not enough professionals in the industry know, because they kind of learn the skills from their teachers, from their schools, to get them the skills to be able to get the job in that type of a job, that kind of a game
Mm-hmm.
studio, that kind of a film studio. So it's a very
Yeah.
linear path to get right to there. And they're completely unaware of the rest of the industry out there, the fine artists, the
Mm-hmm.
illustrators, the designers, the graphic designers, the industrial designers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. People who have very,
Mm-hmm.
very different communication styles, very different artistic processes. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of these artists will they'll go to a convention, they'll go to a workshop, they'll spend a lot of money to be able to sit down with seasoned professionals, somebody who worked on Transformers, somebody who worked on, Lucasfilm films and stuff like that. To which the professional will look at their artwork and say, no, you're not ready. And they might be right, but that answer is not descriptive enough, because they might look at
Mm-hmm.
that artist and say, well, you want a job working where I work? You're talking to me. I worked on the last Star Wars film. I don't see any sci-fi in your portfolio. So obviously you're not going to get the job. So they're
Right.
critiquing the specific criteria that their department's looking for to get that job. But
Right.
because they're being too vague about that blunt feedback, the artist walks away and
Mm-hmm.
thinks, I'm not good enough at art, period, which might not
Mm.
be the case. Had they looked at another artist, they say, oh, you got something going on in there that I really, really like. And to be able to help them to take that and say, look what you can do with that. Look at the career you can develop around that. I would argue
Mm-hmm.
is another very important mentor teacher quality, to be able to say, hey, you see what you're doing? What do you think about that? I'll give you an example of where this was done for me before I was even ready for this advice. I was studying
Mm-hmm.
fine arts because my mother was a fine artist. So I thought, okay, real education equals fine arts. And I'm studying fine arts, and they had taken us to the Red Path Museum in Montreal at the McGill University campus. It was a really nice museum where they
Mm-hmm.
had old fossils and mummies and stuff like that. And my teacher had taken us to that museum to just sketch whatever we wanted to sketch. We just brought our sketchbooks and we had fun there. And my teacher was kind of doing the rounds, and I was drawing this giant clam fossil. And my teacher looked over my shoulder and said, as he glanced over at my sketchbook, and I said, hey. And he says, have you ever considered being an illustrator?
Hmm.
And at the time, I took this as a rebuke. This was a sharp criticism. I went, no, I'm a fine
Hmm.
artist. And he went, I didn't mean any offense by that, because I thought by him not accepting me as a fine artist, he was telling me that I suck. And he goes, no, I'm not saying you're bad. I'm just saying I'm seeing illustrator qualities in the way you're saying. He said, I didn't mean it as an insult to his own. No, I'm a fine artist. He said, it's cool, it's cool. Calm down, have a drink of water. It's okay, Adam. I'm not insulting you. I went home, and because I was still living with my mother at the time, and I said, do you believe the nerve of my teacher? He said, maybe you consider getting into illustration. To which my fine artist mother said, yeah, he's right. I went, you too? Is this a mutiny? What the heck's going on, right? She said, yeah, why did you go pursue fine arts in the first place? You're definitely more of an illustrator. I went, what are you talking about? I'm in the second year in fine art school. What are you talking about? She goes, well, you don't have the fine artist form of drawing. It's expression. You're much more illustratory. And I went, oh, okay. I kind of had to rebrand my whole definition of what fine arts was. He recognized a skill in me in the way I was expressing it. Now, I could have very well pursued fine arts and gone down that path. It's fine. But I ended up getting into animation. And then, lo and behold, here I am I'm turning 50 in November this year as an illustrator. Surprise, surprise. Some people just have a scary eye for talent. They know how to look at your stuff and say, I know what DNA makes art like that. And we'll say, have you ever considered that? And all of a sudden, what you're doing as a teacher is you're taking that artist and you're saying, hey, you really feel like an imposter, don't you? What if I take you out of that? Like, take a furry. You're walking down the street as a furry, people going, look at that idiot. And say, oh, yeah, no. Don't worry about them. Here, I'm going to take you and drop you into the otaku-thon. And all of a sudden, everybody's swarming and hugging you. You just found your community, buddy. And it's the same thing with art. Right. It's your scary eye for talent, because you have the versatility mind to be able to say, I know what skills, I know what mind goes into a certain type of artistic expression, right? Yeah, I'm very passionate about that. Something I talk about frequently with my students, for sure. Yeah.
You're right, and I've seen you voice that on your channel, and it's great.
A lot.
We need to advocate for that one.
For sure.
And if I can, so can I kind of give you like how I would also approach a similar objection to somebody? So first and foremost, like for your viewers that probably don't know me, but like one of the biggest things that I'm doing right now is I'm writing my dissertation on talent, and specifically like what is its role in art education. And I reject it as any vital component of an art education experience, long-term or short-term. And when I take a look at like what actually matters to an individual, and what I would say is it's not talent whatsoever, because if I really look at things objectively regarding this one, it's conflated socially, it's conflated culturally too, and it really just becomes a construct. It's you think you have it or you don't, and then that shapes your story. And the story that you tell yourself is the most powerful thing, whether you want to get into art, whether you wanted to go ahead and be a chef, whether you just wanted to go ahead and be a decent human being, is that you have to understand your story, and your talent perception becomes your story of it. You'd say that, well, I can't do this, and therefore I can't because I'm not talented. Or you've been pumped up by your parents too. I've seen that one too. You're so talented, you're so talented, you're so talented. But a really curious thing is that I've always noticed is that some of, like, if I look back to my high school experience, I was not the most talented person in my classroom, in my program. They all quit. If I fast forward to right now,
how about that?
Nobody is doing this anymore. Nobody. If I look to even my college experience, when I graduated, my degrees in art education, I am the only one still doing this. I'm the only one. I was not the best. I was not teacher's favorite. I did not create the best lesson plans. I did not. I had a great student teaching experience at a very great high school in my area, but that was it. I fought even for that to do. And so one of the things that I think is that, and I think there's a really deep reason why I think parents might say, or families might say, you're not talented enough, specifically from the familial end of this, is because of insecurity. And so whenever I hear somebody say that, oh, well, I'm not talented, or I don't think that I'm talented, my mindset shifts right from like, oh, do you really think that? Or were you just told that? Or were you influenced by that? Because if a parent to me tells us tells their child that they are not gifted or blessed enough to do this, specifically with art. I can concede on some other levels, like if you're 4'11" and you want to play professional basketball, not around here, but if we're talking artistically, there's nothing that actually holds you back that I have found any case study nor any actual evidence to support that conclusion, but rather it's a story that they've been told. And if a parent tells their child you're not talented enough, or they help to just shape that conception that it might be the case, and that gives them leeway to then quit, what I find is that parent was probably passionate about something just as much and they gave up on it. And so one of the things that I've always found is that I think that a lot of people are very easily dissuaded from giving up their passions for what we talked about earlier, the realistic paradigm. And realism is a paradigm. Like when you really get into it, like what's realistic for somebody is really just the amalgamation of your experiences and what you've been exposed to, kind of like what we've talked about before. And so if somebody's feeling that they're not talented, I would really just say, like, well, what are you really insecure about? What is, and always too, I always want to push this, is like, what's your timeline? Because if your timeline for success is supposed to be, I need to graduate and then I need to go and work at Riot Games or I'm a loser, like that's a terrible expectation. Like that's an awesome goal if you can just really like hammer down and work for it. But what if it takes you 10 years? Okay, that's still success. What if it takes you 20 years? That's still success. Like I'm closing in on 40 right now. Like I have little months away before I'm apparently like an old decrepit person by society standards, right? And
you're just getting started, buddy.
I know, right? That's how I feel too. I don't know how everybody down below like feels about how I look, but like I forget my age, and like I don't care, because the pursuit of what I'm doing matters to me far greater than the achievement of it.
Absolutely.
And so the thing that I really push forward is like, what if it takes you longer? Does that make you more of a success? Because just hypothetically, you've probably known people that got married at like 20 and then they divorced 3 times by the time they got to your age. That doesn't mean that they were a better success at marriage. Just because somebody, had children super early in life and they're a terrible parent and they no longer speak to their children, that doesn't mean that they were a better parent and a better success at doing that. So then therefore, why would you put forward that with art? Just because you perceive yourself to be unable to right now, let's just put this into a perspective. It's right now. Right now can change. Right now changes the moment that right now fades away, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I've got a lot of thoughts on that. Like just from a parent's perspective, I've had many things from a parent's perspective, from a child's perspective, on what does it mean to be a parent, and what do I feel a healthy family dynamic is, and what an unhealthy family dynamic is. And one of the big things that I've realized in my life as a child is the responsibility of a parent is not at any point, at any time, to diminish that person's feeling of self-worth, ever. Yes. There's never an excuse for that. And it can take an entire lifetime for a child, if you're the child of a parent who puts you down, who makes you question your self-worth, who discourages you from doing certain things, you as a child have to sit back at a certain point and say, what's your motivation to putting that thought into my head, of calling me that name, of blaming me of being that type of person? Because from a parental perspective, from a public figure's perspective, who takes the words of my mouth extremely seriously, this is a soundbite you can share right here, is people are what you blame them of being. People become what you blame them of being. And the same thing can be applied towards yourself. You are what you blame yourself of. Right? And if a parent keeps telling you you're selfish all the time, at a certain point, you're going to start questioning how selfish you are. And you might, in a moment of weakness, become selfish in spite of it. right?
Right.
And if a parent is, if as a parent you're saying to yourself, you know, you're never gonna succeed at this, or you're being a loser by being this way, or whatever thing you're saying as a parent, maybe even with good intention, you have to stop yourself and say, hey, am I programming my child to start believing that? Because my child is not a loser yet, but I'm preparing them to be one. My child is not broke yet, but I'm preparing them to be that way based off of a career that I'm not qualified to judge. A lot of these parents that say, you know, this is a dead end, you're not telling us enough. According to what expertise? What degree do you have in art to be able to make that judgment call? No. What you do is, if my child says I want to pursue this career and I'm not qualified to know if somebody's good enough, like if my child wanted to be an astrophysicist, I don't have an education in astrophysics. So what do?
Right.
I find time and I book time with an astrophysicist to say, how can my child pursue that career in the best way possible, depending on their personal interests? What kind of aspect of astrophysics should they pursue? And where's a good place to go about it? And where are they? And let the professionals speak on my behalf.
Right.
Yeah. But unless your parent does specifically that type of art, and I'm not just saying art in general, that type of art, they're not qualified to be an advocate for it or a judge.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. I fully agree with that sentiment so powerfully, Adam, because you're 100% right, is that oftentimes, I mean, especially if you're in more isolated areas of the world, if you're in more isolated areas of your country, or you're just your local area, you know, your only source of information for a lot of people for a long, very overly too long, prolonged period of time is your family, you know. And that's why too, I think it's really hard for artists to want to take a brave step, and maybe they want to start their own business. Maybe they want to freelance. Maybe they do want to teach via some unconventional platform. But that would involve them starting a business. Well, I can't start a business. Why? Because, you know, my parent told me that this or that happens, or it's going to be so hard. Taxes are going to be ridiculous. Oh, really? Did they do it? Okay. Because I've had, like, one of the things that I often help a lot of people that come into my mentorship do is like to start their business and to get that going. And I'll get the very frequent resistance of like, oh my God, well, taxes or this and that. And I'm like, listen, this is, if you are a freelancer that doesn't have a physical space that you have to occupy, without physical products that you have to ship out, taxes are stupidly easy. It's really, it could not be any easier. And setting up the business is really not that dang hard. Like, it's literally like 2 small fees a year, and that is all. And and now obviously, you know, like if you sell products,
unless you live in Quebec,
all that. Yeah, I know. I'm speaking from at least the US, where I live in the US. But like, just globally speaking here, a lot of fear is enveloped in that. And again, I think I put it back to like, okay, and to your extent too, like, you said that if you're programming your child to, you know, have low self-worth, I'm going to just take that step further. Everything parents does programs their children. And a big part of you growing up as an adult is deprogramming yourself. And the best part of you being an artist is deprogramming yourself out of being normal. And I put that forward very, very passionately, that I believe that, because if you wanted to go ahead and be like everybody else, I'm sorry. Like, I don't know what you thought the artistic life was going to be like, but it's very atypical. It is very much so. And leading with passions forward, and leading with, you know, your dreams at the forefront, but then you also working for those dreams becomes paramount to your success. And you know what's really curious to me, Adam, is how much families will support people that want to be athletes. And I'm not throwing shade to anybody that want to be professional athletes, but how many people go through an entire high school program and will get up every single morning at 4 a.m. and work out for 2 hours, and then go to a 3-hour practice, and they'll have full support. And then they'll never, and then what happens, you catch them 15 years later, and they're 150 pounds fatter. They don't work out. They don't do anything. They're absolutely miserable. They'll go ahead and support that, and that's the end that they live with.
Mm.
But that's the fear that parents have about their artists, right? Is that they
Right.
will not pursue the thing and not achieve the thing that they work hard towards. And
Mm-hmm.
in the same vein of thought, I would propose that if you want to be an artist, like, and that is something that is your calling in life that you want to
Yep.
answer, right? You have to put forward that type of work ethic. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
really put it really into perspective of like, look at the way that athletes train. That's very much the same way that you want to think of yourself as a creative. Like, you are
Yeah.
training yourself, you are deprogramming yourself, you're challenging everything that you think. And the thing
Yeah.
that I've often noticed, and I've talked about on my channel a good deal too, is that like, while you're creating, every single insecurity comes up. You ever feel that way?
Mm. Yep.
Like, you
Yeah.
ever, like,
Oh yeah.
every doubt, every reason why you can't, every like, even these weird voices like from years ago, like I'll be drawn and be like, why did I just have that memory from like 10 years ago? Where did
Mm.
her voice come into play? And
Mm.
that is something that you have to embrace. Like earlier you
Yeah.
were saying, is that, in that resistance is where you really forge yourself, wouldn't you say?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh God. Jesus, you know how to get my brain going at a million miles a minute. I wanted to anchor myself back to something you touched on, and I'm going to go, oh, that's such an important point.
Please.
You were talking about, and I love the athletic reference, and it made me think,
Mm-hmm.
okay, why? Yeah, you're right. Why do people encourage athleticism? I think because there's the health side of it. Parents
Yeah.
feel safer promoting a healthy endeavor than
Mm-hmm.
something that doesn't necessarily have health associated to it. It's just poverty and scoliosis, right? But that's subject that I really want to dig deeper into. However, here's the thing, and again, I'm hearkening back to something that Kelsey Rodriguez advocates for a lot.
Mm-hmm.
As an art parent, as a parent of an artist, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
what I think one of the things that both you and I have kind of overlooked, a very important aspect of being a parent of an artist, is
Mm-hmm.
when your child says, I want to pursue, let's say your child walks up to you and says, Dad, I want to be an artist, and I don't care what you think about it. I'm doing it whether you like it or not. Because for some reason they sound like they smoke
Yeah.
cigars.
Is
And
that what you sounded like when you told your mom too?
oh yeah, I totally
Is that
sounded
it?
like this when I was a kid. Mom, I'm doing it whether you like it or not. Instead of saying yes or no, why don't you go beyond that and say, okay, you want to pursue
Mm-hmm.
a creative career?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, that's definitely an important part of it. What do you want to
Mm-hmm.
combine with that to make a well-rounded career out of that?
Yeah.
Right? Like for instance, you were saying, you're an artist, but you're scared of money and business, and so okay, well then art
Mm-hmm.
and business. Take a business course, take an art course, slap it together, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or in my particular case, I took art and teaching because I'm third generation teacher. I realized when I became a teacher that my mother and my grandmother and my father are all art teachers as well. So it
Mm-hmm.
is kind of in my DNA in that regard. But art plus teaching plus video production, these are all things
Yeah.
that I combine together to become a more well-rounded business person. See,
Yeah.
or Antonio Stappaerts, art plus the technicality plus business consultation, etc.
Mm-hmm.
He's combining skills. And I'd say that
Right.
I even commented the video by an art YouTuber who I called out for being kind of toxic, that kind of advocated for being the purest form of the artist. I make paintings, I sell them on Etsy, and was calling out
I
artists
remember
who
that
also
video.
teach. Yeah, of course, a lot of people do. Calling out people who teach, calling out people who run a business, going, oh, look, they left the link to their business down there. Oh, they're frauds. And I'm sitting there going, no, they're not just art, they're not just creative artists, they're creative artists that actually want to make a living out of this kind of stuff.
Right.
And unless you're thinking of yourself who's going to run an art exhibit and open a gallery exhibit once a year and try to live off of that, good luck. Or sell your
Mm-hmm.
drawings or caricatures on the side of the street in the tourist area of your neighborhood, confided the weather's nice.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've got to find ways of diversifying yourself. So
Yeah.
as an
I
art
agree.
parent, you'd say, okay, good. And I was raised by this. This was little conversations I've had with my mother growing up. She said, you can't just
Mm-hmm.
satisfy one side of your brain or the other. You have to satisfy the creative outlet, you've also got to satisfy your wallet. Because
Yeah.
if you're the hippie artist, you're going to starve and you're going to end up resenting art. If you're just a
Right.
business person, you're going to have money, but you're going to be miserable and unfulfilled. So you have to be able to
Right.
combine them. And that's where my mother's combination of fine art and computer science did that. Right. And she ended up designing flight simulators, and she ended up getting into the computer graphics industry at the very early inception of computer graphics. And look where we are today. Fast forward. But she always advocated for both. You need both. So as an art parent, don't think it's not an on-off switch, art or not art. It's art plus what? Right. Art plus and research with your kids what other things they have. I'll give you an example. Chloe, an incredible musician. Next year, she's going to be getting into the regular course, so she's leaving the advanced music course and stuff like that. But she was first trumpet in her advanced class. She did shows in France, and her music brings tears to my eyes. It's so beautiful. Okay, she's still that, but she's also interested in pursuing other things academically. And I was like, oh my God, you're giving up the trumpet for this. It's kind of at the beginning, it broke my heart. And I thought to myself, and I really I pushed back against, don't leave that course. It's such a good quality class, and you're just doing such amazing stuff, and you're so respected in your class for what you're doing. And I pushed back against it. And then I thought to myself, Adam, you're doing exactly the same bloody thing that so many parents do. You're making her question herself. Understand, I had to sit back as a parent and say, if I really do trust, if I can look at my daughter in the eyes and say, I have faith in you, and I trust you, and I believe in you, if I can stand behind my word, that I can trust her to also pursue other things that don't flatter the art dead side of me, and say, no, there's other sides of you too. Maybe you want to get into fashion consulting. Maybe you want to get into modeling. Maybe you want to get into business. Maybe you want to get into consulting. Maybe you want to get into communications. She's smart and capable. Let her figure this stuff out on her own. Stop pushing. So I said, yeah, okay, cool. And I said, everybody in your class is crying and everybody's heart's broken because you were like the star of the class. But that's fine. You can go. If your heart brings you back, it'll bring you back. But bloody trust her and allow her to have faith in what she's doing. Because if I just tell her to keep doing trumpet for the rest of her life, she's just going to resent it, isn't she?
Right. Yeah.
I'm forcing her to be a one-trick pony. I'm forcing her to be bad at being herself, which is the worst thing, the worst disservice I could do to her. Right.
Right.
Yeah. So and I think that's,
I love that. And I really sincerely hope, I can be as supportive of my kids' interest as you've been, and I wish more parents would do that. And so, thank you. And so, two things I want to piggyback on that you just brought up. One of the things that you brought up and you were thinking about is, well, why do parents support certain endeavors other than others? I want to simplify this down to two reasons. It's spectacle and status. And when I go to why somebody would want to support and heavily endorse their child's involvement into something, it always comes back to status and spectacle. Because and I'm going to even put this into the realm of visual arts, right? And this is just something that I feel as somebody, again, who's been a public art educator for the last 15 years, is that I literally think I just swallowed a fly that flew into my mouth as we've been on camera.
As I like to call sky raisins.
Yeah,
my cat.
That's awesome. Yeah, I didn't know I needed a snack, but thanks a lot, Mother Nature. And so one of the things I need to talk about spectacle, right, is that if you look at all the arts in general, visual arts are the least spectacle worthy one of them, hands down. If you go to band, you do multiple performances, you perform at every single football show. There's no football game that doesn't have a band there, all right? Even though begrudgingly, most bands are not happy to perform there. If you go in chorus, you sing here and you sing there and you sing the national anthem, there's a spectacle. If you're in dance, well, you do performances, you do competitions. Art. Here's my picture. Picture won at a competition. I've got national award-winning medals I've gotten from my students that have won awards, nationally accredited ones, but that's it. And there's very little spectacle, as opposed to if your kid plays football, well, what do you do? Well, then the parents are going to support them and bring them to every practice and pick them up and drop them off early and be there at every single game. There's a spectacle. And then status comes into play too, where, parents are sitting around at a dinner party, or they're just out with their friends. Hey, what's Sean doing? And mom will say, oh, well, he's an artist. Oh, and then they have to go around the room and say, what are they doing? What are they studying at school? Oh, well, Susie is going for computer science. Oh, and Rocky over here. I don't know why I'm saying Rocky, right? But who names their kid? Do people still name their kid Rocky? Like Rocky Momo? I don't know. But like, they'll be like, yeah, well, Rocky up over here is going for chemical engineering. Oh, and this person up over here is going for this. And oh, Sean's going to be an artist. And maybe the other friends go,
And what are they reacting to? They're reacting to your tone. They're not reacting to the art. If they said, oh, he's an artist, they go, ooh.
Right.
But if you go, he's an artist, they go, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. You know what, you're right. But I think that's where it leads itself into, is there's a lot of status involved in what your children are, because a lot of people do live vicariously through their children. I mean, you think about it like this too. Like how many parents push their children to be perfectionists when there's nothing perfect about them, the way that they act, their attitude, the way that they look, but they want their kids to be a freaking carbon copy doll of what, they expect them to be. And it's a status element to it. And it's a really sad part about,
I love the fact you're really educating me right now. I love what you're saying right now. That's cool. Yeah.
It's I wish it wasn't the case. I wish I didn't have to say this stuff, but I do, because there's a massive status element involved with, like, hey, well, my kid's gonna go ahead and be a chemical engineer. And then if you look at that post-graduation, it looks the same way. Okay, well, 5 years later, well, how are they doing? Oh, well, they got a great job doing this. They're working at a pharmaceutical company. What's Sean doing? He works in a high school. He works in high school teaching art. Or honestly, for my first 2 years, I just worked at Lowe's Home Improvement, and I sold flooring and plumbing. And so that's what I did until I got
more prestigious than my jobs. Yeah.
And so the thing too, I love that you brought up, and this is not the first time you brought it up in this conversation, is what are artists sleeping on as far as how could they persist and how could they prove their family is wrong? Is that, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this after too, is one of the things that I very strongly advocate for is that you don't have to think that art is all in or nothing. I really, really strongly oppose that for everybody. I don't think that that's everybody's walk in life, is to just go ahead and I think that we have a lot of like Harry Potter influences where it's like, oh, well, if I suck, past the age of 14, I'm just never going to get anywhere. And so it's okay if you're 25 and newly graduated and nobody hires you. That doesn't mean that you're a failed artist. It's okay if you are 35 and you have had multiple endeavors and you couldn't start a Patreon, you couldn't start an art YouTube channel, and you couldn't start your illustration business and nobody wants to commission you. That's okay. But the thing that you brought up, and it seems like your mother modeled this too, is that you can do something in tandem. You can have the life and work for the life that you have to do to get and achieve the life that you want to do.
Absolutely.
I think that there's a lot of people that fall under the guise of like, well, if you work for passion for the rest of your life, you'll be poor. And I fully reject that, because everybody that's done anything amazing was passionate about some aspect of it that brought them there, and artists or non-artists included up in there. And so I take myself, for example, like I said, I'm an art educator, and I started teaching. I was 24 when I started teaching art. And I realized 2 years in past that, hey, this is really good. I enjoy my career. And by the way, if anybody wants to be a public art educator, it's an awesome profession. Is get into a good school system. They're not that hard to find. It is a wonderful profession. And I get summers off, I get nights with my families. It's absolutely terrific.
Job security,
also
absolutely.
Job security is fantastic too. And then also, I mean, talk about job security. What jobs are secure? If you think your job is secure, let's rewind 5 years ago to COVID, when everybody in every sector was getting laid off, and they did it over the course of a weekend. But so job security is an illusion, my friend. One of the things that Warren Buffett says is that if you're if you only have one income, you are one step away from poverty. And I
Mm,
fully, that really powerfully changed my
mm.
paradigm surrounding work ethic in your
It's probably
income
going to
stream.
change mine effective immediately.
Yeah. And I really believe that. And I hope that somebody watching this is like, oh crap, like he's right. But yeah, I fully agree with that. And that's why in that moment, 2 years into teaching, I thought to myself, you know what? This is awesome. I like this, but
Mm,
I'm not serving myself. I love to teach art, but I'm also spending all my time making art for other people and showing other people how to make art. And that doesn't serve me. I need to make my own art. That's when I started to get into freelance. And then from freelance is when I built my robust methods that I teach about nowadays, so that I don't do commission sheets and I don't do everything that everybody tells you to do. And I fully advocate for better ways for it all over my channel. But I did that. And then I started my YouTube channel. I actually started my YouTube channel during COVID because I had to teach
mm.
people at home how to do this. And that's how I started this. And I learned stuff that we know about today on, lighting and studio and all this stuff. And then I
Yeah,
started my mentorship. And so
yeah.
one of the things that I'll really put out here is that I've done all this over the course of a decade. And that goes back to my earlier point about, you have to think about your timeline. Like if you're expecting success on a timeline that's yours, you have some element of control, but you have to
Yeah.
also entertain, like, how can you build that while, like, if you want to and you need to go ahead and you need to work at Chick-fil-A and be an
Mm,
artist on your off time, then go ahead and do that. Again, like, have the
mm.
spirit of the athlete who doesn't just go to school and then show up for a game. No, they put in the hours and they'll put in the practice and they'll sacrifice some of that time on
Yeah.
meaningless endeavors for meaningful endeavors.
Mm.
And so what are your thoughts too on, like, what are artists sleeping on, or what could they do in order to succeed in spite of that opposition?
Okay, well, it's interesting you're saying, and I think you could bring the parent conversation into that as well. Just because we brought parenthood into this, I've been kind of
Yeah.
I've had both of my brains going on at the same time, and
Mm-hmm.
I think in all of what you're expressing, um, what's really, really important is that
Mm-hmm.
it's called self-discovery. You're figuring yourself
Yeah.
out. This is your life. You're taking taking what you can from the wise people around you, from your parents, from your friends, from the big and little C communities, and
Mm-hmm.
you're moving forward with that information and tailoring it to yourself to the best of your ability, right? And
Mm-hmm.
from a parental perspective or from a mentor's perspective, you're looking at where they are. Let's say they're they're in their teens, their late teens, their 20s, their 30s, etc. And you're kind of looking at where they are at this different phase in their life, and what their attitude is about their livelihood, about where they are successful or not successful, and you're assessing kind of what the situation is for this particular artist. And
Mm-hmm.
yes, I absolutely do believe that you need to let people find their own path and you have to let them explore, and don't put that timeline on people. At the same
Mm-hmm.
time, when you have to, it's important to take into consideration that people's patience and perseverance is not infinite. At a certain point, if you're 35, 40 years old and you have nothing to show for it, and you still kind of feel like you're at ground zero and you haven't made any progress, and you're sitting
Mm-hmm.
down with a mentor with very, very mediocre drawing skills and little to no professional experience to show for it, that's an indication to a professional then there's something lacking in your psychology of your career, or your skill set of your career, or your attitude
Yeah.
towards your career. And you need to be able to
Right.
look at this and go, okay, if I was a parent or if I was a mentor, I would say, okay, you've reached this point in your career and you keep finding yourself hitting the same roadblock over and over and over and over and over and over again. And I'm talking to
Mm-hmm.
somebody right now, figuratively speaking, I'm not speaking to you specifically, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking to you, the student, and seeing a person who's really at their wits' end. I can see
Mm-hmm.
there's not a lot of motivation. There's not a lot of passion left in your face. You're just sitting there going, I don't know.
Mm.
I've tried everything, and my girlfriend's pissed off at me, and I don't know. My mom's always giving me crap, and I'm sitting there going, okay. So technically, here's ABC, the things you want to learn artistically. From a career perspective, you're lacking this skill. There's something missing in your ingredients, and this is an obstacle that's getting in your way. As far as your psychology is concerned, as far as your headspace, is your headspace a symptom or a cause? So are you feeling this way because you've been beating your head against the wall for 2 decades, or are you feeling this way because you've never had motivation to start off with? I can't help you with that, right? Obviously, you've been trying to carry the psychological burden on your own and taking the blame for this. And there are factors in your life, intrinsic or outside of yourself, that you need to address, because there's no art tutor ain't going to cure you. There's more to this picture. So technically, ABC, do that.
Yeah.
Emotionally, go talk to this person. Right. And from a career perspective, go consult with this person, because you're missing this skill. You're really good at drawing, but you have crap skills in business, or you're completely socially terrified. So you don't want anybody to know you exist. Well, good luck making a living in your basement. It ain't going to happen. People need to know you exist. You need to know how to market yourself. Take a course in marketing, maybe graphic design. Learn how to present yourself better, because all you're doing is just giving me, a sketchbook with some papers, with some sketches on ripped off pieces of paper. This doesn't present you in a very professional way. Take a crash, take a mentorship in graphic design, and learn how to present yourself properly. So when people look at your work, you show respect for your work. See what I'm saying? And you learn this along the way. But
I agree with that. And no, that's okay. Are you good?
I'm good.
I just want to make. Okay, thanks. So one of the things that I really like how you laid all that out. And the thing too, I'll pick up on, is that there's always going to be a technical end to what you have to do as an artist, but there's also always going to be the human end of it that you have to take care of. And I'm just going to say this, like, the art end is most definitely, the technical end is the easiest end to do. But the hardest end is to take care of your human self on there too. And so one of the things that I'm going to say too is that more people are going to not succeed, not because they are not worthy of it or blessed with it, or because they weren't supported of it in it, but because they'll give up on it. And the hardest thing too for anybody to combat on there is their story. It's their paradigms for it too, I've always found. And I think the biggest thing that I've definitely found is that when people say, like, I've tried everything, and I think when I hear that, my knee-jerk reaction is like, no, you didn't. Like, at a certain point, and after so many years of life, like, I just want to say it. No, you haven't. Because if you have done everything, we wouldn't be having that conversation. And I think that the easier thing, though, is what most people will do, is the only thing that you have done, though, when you say you've done everything, is you've completely inoculated yourself with insecurities. You've inoculated yourself and over-digested content. You've over-digested content about why AI is scaring you, why you can't be an artist anymore. And you've over-digested into Pinterest, and you've over-digested into social media content. You've over-digested all of these different artists. And then you went ahead and now you feel bad about yourself. So now you go ahead and you shut down. Oh, I wanted to make art. Now I don't want to make art. Now I just want to go ahead. I want to go ahead and I want to play Elden Ring for 45 hours this month. Like, that's not doing
that. Sounds like fun. I wouldn't mind doing that.
It does sound like a great time, doesn't it? Like, real talk here. Yeah.
I'm digressed. Sorry.
In all honesty, though, you're doing everything, but in the wrong direction. You got to pick up and move yourself in the direction that you want to go to, or else you're actively pursuing a direction you don't want to do. And so for all artists out here that are like, oh, my parents are killing my love of art or my direction for art. The one thing that I've always, and you asked it to answer one of your questions you asked me earlier that I forgot to mention this point to, is I think that you have to give people a reason to support you. I don't expect anybody to support me, real talk. I really don't. I've really just grown into this one. Maybe it's just because I wasn't that supported in certain endeavors in life, like art. But I just don't expect anybody to support me in anything that I want to do. And I think it's a grounded expectation that if somebody walks up to you and says, hey, I want to start a business, the best way I've ever heard this said is, like, everything sounds good around the kitchen table until it comes time to do it. And I would say to every artist out there, give people a reason in your life to support you. Give people a reason in your life to say, wait a minute, they're right. This was the right path for them. I can't tell you how many family members I have. They're like, oh my God, Sean, you're doing great. Like, I'm so proud of you. I'm impressed with you. And, and they've expressed to me, they felt that they felt a little uneasy about my decision to pursue
Yeah.
art and art education, but I've proved them wrong. And
Mm.
so just because somebody doesn't believe in you doesn't give you the permission to give up. That's something that you give yourself permission to do. And that
Yeah.
also wraps itself into, like, when people think that they're not talented enough, what it really just boils down to is that it becomes a very convenient excuse for you to give up. It's the most
Mm.
easiest one. It's like, it's not me. I did it all. And
Mm.
so I really powerfully project that on everybody that is dealing with this hard issue of, parents being too controlling. If they're moving them in a direction they don't want to go in, or if they're
Mm.
moving them away from art and dissuading them, give them a reason to show them. Like, I'll just give you as an example right here. Like, one of my mentees I'm really proud of, she recently, just to put her into a little bit of context, but she does have an illustration job, but she doesn't like it that much at all, and they're not
Mm.
very nice to her whatsoever. So I've been working with her to increase her illustration business,
Okay.
and over the last 2 weeks, she's been able to double the income that she brought in from her illustration job on her freelance work that I've been able. And
Mm.
that's amazing. And all of her friends told her she couldn't do this and she could have gone to school for that. She should do this
Wow.
instead. And I kind of worked through, like, that's not what you want to do. You should
Mm.
just do this. Like, this is what
Mm.
you're used to. And now all of her friends talk to her about, how are you doing that? Like, that could be
Mm.
you. Like, you could be the model for your friends and your kids. And one of the things that I very powerful think about, Adam, is I want my sons to look at me when they grow up and say, wow, dad did it. I can do it too. And I
Yeah.
think that parents model the behaviors of somebody who gives up and somebody who's insecure, or somebody who's passionate and proud. And that's something I want
Mm.
to do for my boys. I don't know about you.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Absolutely. I want to support them. I'll tell you something too. When you're mentioning when people say, I've done everything. I
Mm-hmm.
actually I've learned to take this. It took a while for me to kind of figure this out, but I
Yeah.
learned to take that sentence,
Mm-hmm.
that sentence of frustration, as a very positive thing from a teacher's perspective.
Yeah.
Because I've always felt that in order for somebody to feel incentivized and personally driven to do something, they have
Mm-hmm.
to push themselves a little bit beyond their limit. So do everything I believe in thriftiness, right? Do
Yeah.
everything you can for as little money as possible. If you can push your education to a very high tier without spending one red penny, good. You don't want to throw money at the problem when
Mm-hmm.
you haven't given it your all. So when
Mm-hmm.
a student or anybody turns to me and says, I've done everything, I don't know what to do, what they're actually expressing is, I've done everything that I can to get the knowledge that I need
Yes.
on my own, and I just
Mm-hmm.
don't know where to look anymore.
Right. Yeah.
Opportunity, right? So for me, the teacher, I said, okay, good. So you've tried this, and this. Okay, you've done a lot. I can see you've put a lot of
Mm-hmm.
yourself into it. Now you're just kind of hitting this. Now your learning is cyclical. You're just going around in circles and you're not getting anywhere.
Right. Yeah.
Good. Okay. Well, let me pull the plug on that and put you on a
Mm-hmm.
different track, because you haven't even considered this yet. I do this
Right.
with my own artwork, right? Like, very often I
Yeah.
would watch a video by Hardy Fowler, or I watch a video by
Mm-hmm.
Tim McBurney, or I watch a video by Anthony Jones, or by Scott Flanders.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes me out of the rut of just feeling this lack of growth. I know what it feels like in my body, just feel like I'm going nowhere. And whenever I feel that feeling, when I'm starting to get bored of myself,
Mm-hmm.
I go,
Mm-hmm.
I need somebody else's exterior input. How did Anthony play? He uses the same brushes, but he's got a different way of doing about it. Oh, look how Peter Moorbacher uses the same round brush, but he uses flow instead of opacity. What the heck? And he does this thing. I'm like, oh wow! And all of a sudden, I'm reprogramming my brain to use a brush in a different way, and that is all I need, because I've been pushing
Mm-hmm.
myself so hard. All I need somebody is to go, and I fly like a jet, because I just needed to get over that little hurdle. And that's what a
Yeah.
mentor is. A mentor is a person who
Yeah,
says, okay,
definitely.
you've tried everything, but you didn't consider that yet. And
Right.
sometimes the best thing you can do is just give them one little ingredient. And because
Mm-hmm.
they've created so much of their own momentum, you give them
Right.
this much and they'll make a mountain out of it. But
Right.
if somebody just
Absolutely.
walks in off the street and says, oh, I'm just learning art. Well, do you have any ideas on where you want to go with it? No. How long have you been doing this for? I'm starting now. Okay. What kind of art are you into? I don't know, a bit of everything. Okay. So what am I thinking to well, you might have come to me a little bit early, You haven't really explored enough yet. But maybe at that particular point, what I want you to do as your mentor is I want you to start exploring. I want you to start experimenting. I want you to start trying different things. And I want you to start getting a feel for what you like. Because in my opinion, you probably should have tried to beat yourself against the wall a little bit for a little while and found yourself in a dead end. And a mentor is really good for getting people over those dead ends. You were basically giving you a hurdle over that dead end. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love that you said that too. And I agree with that too. When people say I've done everything, it's like you've done everything to the extent of which you're knowledgeable about.
Which you can, and therefore,
if you don't know, like, then that's what you need to do next. Or here's another good one too. When people tell me what they've done and they're like, I do it like this, I do it like that, my mind is actively thinking, what are you avoiding? What are you not doing? Because oftentimes I find that when I'm resisting something, me just experiencing that and like going through it, that is the way, and it reveals the way to what I want to do. And so, I mean, I love this this conversation, and I mean, we've covered a lot of great topics. We've kind of talked about, you know, it sounds to me like we really want to, if you're sitting here right now and you don't have the support in your local home, and you know, homes do evolve into the homes that from which you were born into, the ones you select, and they can evolve from your parents into your partners, which is also another source that people can have contentious relationship with in regards to artists, right? And so with all that, like, what closing thoughts would you have on how artists can persist and can be their best self, their truest self, to realize their dreams if they don't have the support that some others do?
Best imaginable question. And when you, as soon as you said that, I immediately started to think about what helped me get to where I am right now. First of all, have faith in yourself. You know, you can be stoic about it and use the Latin term metnosce, know thyself. You can get it tattooed on your arm if you're a geek like me. You can do that. So have faith in who you are. Remember that this is your journey. I would also really encourage you that if you do have resistance from your family, err on the side of optimism before you call out people for being toxic, because it's very easy, especially for a younger artist, to say, oh, my parents didn't support me, they're jerks and they're toxic and they just want the word. No, maybe they're doing that because they love you, and they're trying to err on the side of safety. They don't want to take a gamble with their child's life, because it's asking a lot of a parent to kind of just let their kid wander through the jungle with a machete and hopefully they survive on their own. So err on the side of that. The only time I would say that it can get toxic is when your parents are actively putting you down, actively calling you names, actively accusing you of negative things, because that's negative programming, and that's harmful to a person's self-esteem. That serves no positive outcome in the end. So know your responsibilities as a parent to be a source of growth, not a source of destruction, right? Then find your community, right? If you're in a school, your community is your school. And that's a very important community if you're in the brick and mortar sense of the word, where really take advantage of the opportunity to love and hate, to find romance, to feel rejection, to really drink in life in a social atmosphere, because that's going to serve you for the rest of your life. Then once you're a professional and you don't have the comfort of having that classroom, that once you find yourself in the online community, I strongly advocate for pursuing a community that's very specifically tailored to not only art, but your particular type of art, because you need that support group. And last but not least, and this is the best piece of advice I've ever given myself, and the best piece of advice I was ever given, and the best piece of advice I can ever give anybody else, is surround yourself with quality people. Because you mentioned this about your wife, same thing with my partner. If I would not be here without her, I also wouldn't be here without my kids. They set me straight. They push my boundaries. They educate me on, they keep my brain out of being the guy who was born in 1975, and they bring my psyche into today. They challenge my thoughts, they challenge my beliefs, and I feel that the quality that my children, the quality that my partner, and the quality of my friends have made me who I am today. And I'm going to close in a quote from the book that I just finished reading, Be Your Future Self Now. I just finished reading that book as a recommendation from my guy at the gym. People's personalities are a culmination of the 5 people we spend the most time with. Think of the 5 people in your life who you spend the most time or think the most of, and they usually are a very strong representation on who you are. You are the company that you keep. So you curate the crowd that you hang around with, and you're going to see what value that brings your life. Absolutely. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. That's awesome.
How about you? What would you add to that? I want to hear your thoughts on that, Sean.
Thanks for that. I think that it's hard to follow up what you said. It was so insightful. But I would just say that if this is first and foremost, you need to view this as this is a decision. And oftentimes what I see a lot of artists really struggle with is being ready. I'm not ready to do this. I'm not ready to try this. I'm not ready to start this. And the way I want to evolve and shape that mindset more so is not being ready is not a state, it's a choice. It's just a decision. I'm ready at some capacity. I was not ready to be a father when, I had my kid. Nobody's ever ready. Like if that were the case, I would literally still be waiting till this moment in time until, you have the perfect setup and the perfect life and the perfect amount.
Perfect salary.
Like, I'd still be waiting. You know what I mean? And there are people that do that wait until their 50s. And I don't know. I don't want that. But, there are so many things that you can just elect to. I'm ready to start. And if you just start moving towards something, you will be way more proud of yourself than if you just keep on telling yourself that you're not. And again, you don't have to think of yourself as a success or failure dependent upon the prestige of your title or where you work or what you're doing in art or how minimally you are doing it in art. Like I remember when I was just stupidly happy to get like $35 commissions once every couple of months. Like I just remember, I mean, that's not me now, but I remember like that, those little successes are far more important than your big successes. And if you're thinking that resistance is going to be the reason why you can't, and you listen, like you have so many reasons to quit this. And if you want to use those as an excuse, that's really what it comes down to at the end of the day. Like whatever you tell yourself, you're right. Your brain is not programmed to disagree with you. Your brain is programmed to keep you alive and to say, yep. You're right. 100%, Sean. Nope, you're right. That's impossible. And so it's literally it. Like there's nothing, it's for survival. It's not for elevation. And so I want you and everybody watching this right now, just to consider, even if you're not where you want to be right now, what's it going to be like in 5 years when you're in the exact same place? What's it going to be like in 10 years and you're in the exact same place? What's it like in 20 years and you were sitting at the exact same place that you're in right now? If I'm just going to be honest, like if you're 60 years old and complaining that your parents held you back, your parents are honestly like close to being dead at that point. And you've been out of their house for so long. You have to accept it was you. It's your story that you're telling yourself. And while they do create the foundation for our success, and yes, some parents do bless their children with more blessings than some other kids do. And that's unfortunate. But you also have to really take the driver's seat here and just say to yourself, okay, that is part of it. Now what? Because one of the things that I really like that Alex Hormozy says is that your past isn't your fault, but it's your problem now. And so like you have to take responsibility of what you've been presented with in life. And a lot of people got less than they deserved. All right. Everybody feels that way to some extent. So work through it and exhaust every possible measure that you can possibly take and be weird and reject what you think is normal and reject any sense of privilege that you think you need to have, or that the way that you need to live your life, or if the boys or the girls are always bugging you that you can't come out all the time, every single time they call, every other day, because you want to work on your art. Again, I'm going to present this to you in 5, 10, 20 years from now, and just ask you this: are you going to be proud of yourself, or are you going to feel regret? And for me personally, my personal mindset on this is that I only want to do things now that fill me with pride, and not anything that I can look back on and regret. And if you abandon your art because you're afraid of it, or because you've been shaped negatively towards it, if your passion was distorted, stop blaming your teachers, stop blaming your parents, stop blaming your experiences with it, and instead just ask yourself, what would it be like if I could prove them wrong, and what would I need to do in order to prove them all wrong and prove myself right? Because it's not always just about doing things out of spite. Like, you don't need to live the Sasuke like mindset from Naruto, or but like, you need to really think about, what are you going to do to make yourself proud at the end of your life? Because it really just boils down to that.
Yeah. And I would just add a last little note: if you're 60 and you're still wondering what you're doing with yourself, then you need to figure out why you still feel that way at 60 by talking to a professional counselor. Because at 60, if you're still beating yourself about that and you're still blaming mom, well, then obviously there's something that you emotionally are struggling to come to terms with, right?
Yeah,
in that
exactly.
regard.
That's 100% right. Yeah, I love that.
Holy smokes, that was a good conversation. Jeez, thank you.
I loved it.
That was really fun.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you,
Oh
Adam.
my God, my mind is
It was great having you here. Great being a
Yeah.
part of your channel too today.
Yeah, it was really, no, honest to goodness, we got to do this again very, very soon. A lot of fun.
I'd love to. Anytime, buddy. Anytime, any topic. I'm there for you. And just for people on my channel, like, where can we find you, Adam? Where would you like to let people know about you?
I'm right here. No, okay. You can find me on lucidpixel.com, my school. You can find me on adamduff.com if you want to check out my art, which I need to update now that I'm saying that out loud. And of course on my Lucid Pixel YouTube channel as well. So I'm all over the place, basically. I'm easy to find online. Yeah. Anybody on my channel, because we're splitting this. And you share your deets.
So y'all can find me on Instagram. My handle is Sean Bianchi. And if you ever look up Sean Bianchi, I'm the most popular Sean Bianchi in the world, apparently, because I'm the first one that comes up. Not hard to find there. And then you can also find me every single week on YouTube at The Art Mentor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adam.
All right. I'll see you in a bit.